Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mark and Smark Connection podcast. I am your host, the Smark, Jesse Disborough. With me is the Mark, Matt Cooper.
Hello, everybody.
We are fresh off of Royal Rumble and the Raw and SmackDown after Royal Rumble, and the Mark, Matt Cooper, went out to the Royal Rumble, and we all enjoyed the Royal Rumble, so we're going to talk Royal Rumble today. So we're going to do that using our tried and true format. None of this 90 seconds of chaos we had last week. We're going to have the Marking Out segment, followed by the Smark's Remarks, catching you up on what happened this week. Then we're going to have some big meaty topics, which is going to be the Royal Rumble this week. And then we're going to close out the show with our hot tag, hot take, and our finisher, and then we're just going to go home. So, Matt, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, so typically at the beginning of the show, we have a segment called Marking Out. I, the Mark, choose something from this week that made me mark out. It could be any one single thing about wrestling, but I can't help myself. I was marking out this week over the fact that I got to go to a pay-per-view in person. I went to the Royal Rumble. It is the first ever pay-per-view I've attended in the long time that I've been a wrestling fan. I've been watching wrestling since I was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. But the only wrestling event I'd ever been to was a house show. Thankfully, a friend of mine, his name is Jay Walker, shout out to him, he got tickets for Christmas, and since his wife didn't want to go, he said, "Hey, do you want to go?" And I was like, "Oh, hell yeah. I just live right down the street." So he very graciously gave me one of those tickets, and we went to Minute Maid Park here in Houston, Texas, and watched the Royal Rumble. I had a fantastic time. Some of my marquee observations. It was interesting to watch a show without commentary. It was just sort of like the reactions of the crowd, and it was worth it in that sense, because I did have an opinion before I went to the show that, it was just as good to watch wrestling on TV. But there is a different energy, a different experience you get when you're in the crowd and you're sort of feeding off the energy of the crowd, which, by the way, high marks to the crowd I was in. They didn't do any stupid chants. So there was no CM Punk. There was no what. There was no bullshit, which might have been, because the show was okay. But still, I think Houston has a reputation for being a pretty okay audience, right? It's not like Chicago or anything like that, right, Jesse?
Yeah, Houston's just a normal audience. No super duper smarky or super duper snarky or what have you.
No, I will say my highlight of the evening was, since I'm a big Bray Wyatt mark, getting to see the Fiend's entrance, which was fantastic.
And getting to see the Fiend.
Getting to see the Fiend as well.
Not washed out in red.
Oh no, I was so happy that they did not turn on that red light.
New year, oh my god, I can see the Fiend.
Yes. Oh my god, I can see anybody. So I was happy about that, and I found myself, because my friend Jay, he was more of a Daniel Bryan fan, and this child next to me was more of a Daniel Bryan fan. But I was sitting between them with my hurt and heel gloves, and I was like, "Get him, Fiend!" So I felt like, because when I was in elementary school, you could always tell who the bullies were because they liked the bad guys in wrestling. Mm-hmm. If this guy liked the big boss man, he was a bully. He was gonna fuck you up, right? And so here I was in my 30s, sitting there cheering for the supernatural demon, while there's this 9-year-old boy like 2 seats away from me going, "Yes, yes!" And when Daniel Bryan eats Sister Abigail, I'm like, "Sister Abigail!" So Jay actually nudged me and said, "Dude, the kid." But the kid was playing along.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I screamed Sister Abigail, he screamed Sister Abigail. That was a fun thing, too. Every move that happened, I got to scream like, "Sister Abigail!" or "DDT!" Yeah. I had a couple of hearty DDTs that I screamed during that event, so I had a fantastic time.
Good. I mean, that's important. You gotta enjoy yourself here.
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, I was sitting behind the entrance ramp, which I said in the last show is where I didn't want to be. Mm-hmm. But I saw the various backs of wrestlers as they made their entrance. It was okay. Mm-hmm. And though I was up in the nosebleed seats, there were Titantrons everywhere. The only quibble I had, which became more of actual complaint as the night went on, was there was a light shining right into my goddamn face.
Yeah.
And there was at some point a chant in my section that said, "Turn the light off, clap, 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 clap."
Yeah, a WrestleMania redux, as it were.
Uh-huh.
Because
So,
WrestleMania 35 had the same issue.
yeah. Turn the light off. Clap,
Hmm.
clap, 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 clap. I will say this, however. I think that maybe shows of the past, which were more like slam heavy,
Hmm.
might have been better for a live audience because the slams really make that ring reverberate.
Hmm.
So when you hear it, it's like. But a lot of like technical stuff on the ground or whatever for the live crowd, I mean, it's great on television. But if you're watching from the nosebleed seats, it's kind of harder to appreciate.
Mm.
So that's one observation I walked away with.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's always nice to get a different view to it and get an idea. I know some people actually go and then they'll turn the network on as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll put like one earbud in there so that they can hear the commentary or what's going on. Because occasionally they'll do something that's important to the storyline, but only comes across in the commentary. I don't think the Royal Rumble had much of that this year,
Well,
but
that's true. And we generally like all the promo packages I watched at home between matches, we saw live as well. So they would play the same sort of video packages.
mhm.
However, there wouldn't be as much preamble or preparation for it. You'd just be out waiting in line for the restroom, and you'd hear like a promo video start, and you'd be like, "Oh shit, I gotta squeeze this out because match is about to start." So I will say this: I did get up and go pee during the Bailey and
Lacey Evans match.
Lacey Evans match.
Mhm.
I like those two wrestlers, but it was really just I was trying to balance everything else on
I
the card,
think
and
I think
that's
most of the people did. It was a very quiet match.
yeah. I have
Um,
nothing against them, and I'm sure it was a good match, but
I
I
guess
really did
the
have to fucking
Asuka
pee.
and
So
Becky Lynch match was a little quiet too.
yeah.
But I really enjoyed that match. But we'll catch up with that when we talk about Raw as our big meaty topic. I'm gonna
Okay.
go ahead and hit all the important things that happened this week.
Mhm.
Wasn't really much important that happened on AEW this week. They're just kind of pushing forward to their next pay per view, Revolution, on February 29th. So John Moxley is officially the number one undisputed challenger for the AEW title, and he made an
Mr.
appearance,
Chris
Mister
Jericho, yes.
Yeah, for Le Champion Chris Jericho. And that's I mean that's basically it. There was MJF got to be on commentary for one of the matches, a match between the Young Bucks and the Butcher and the Blade.
Hmm.
Um,
I still think that's a fantastic name for a tag team.
it is. It's a good name. So there was some good bits in that too. MJF is pretty good at commentary. Surprise, surprise. And yeah. So there was that was basically it. There was a few good matches in there, some decent stuff, and AEW, but there's nothing headlining on AEW, unlike WWE this week, who threw a whole bunch of good stuff at us. This is actually the first week in a long time that I've watched all three programs.
But yeah, Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, or do you mean Raw, NXT,
Raw,
and
NXT, and SmackDown.
by the
Yeah.
way, I think we'd be remiss if we went further into this podcast without mentioning, oh, Edge came back. Yay! Sorry.
Well, it
Okay.
turns out on Raw,
Uh-huh.
one of the big things that happened on Raw was that Edge came out and it was very well booked. It was very everybody's tears were jerking and everybody was feeling great.
Everybody's tears were jerking.
They were jerking right out of their eyes.
Did you have to phrase it that
Yep.
way?
Yeah, they were just like, ugh, oh
They were like,
no,
ugh,
oh those tears, ugh.
Stop. Oh, God.
So, anyway, and Randy Orton came out and was like, hey buddy, I love you. Let's do rated RKO. And then he murdered Edge.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. That shouldn't have been surprising.
No, it shouldn't have. I think
By murdered, you mean he gave him like a very gentle RKO, right?
no. Well,
Like,
he RKO'd him, and then he clamped a steel chair around his neck and was gonna jump off the top rope on him.
yeah.
And then he decided he went, oh no, I don't know if I can do that. So instead, he grabbed two chairs and made a chair sandwich, with Edge's head as the meat.
Don't they call that like a concerto?
No, that's when two people each have a chair,
Okay.
and then meet in the middle with that. In this case, he gently laid his Edge's head on the chair on the ground, and then took the other chair, measured it up all nice, and then wham.
Okay.
Obviously, the way that it was done, the top of the chair hit the other chair, and there was kind of an arch that allowed you not to actually hit Edge in the head, but still.
Of course. I mean, that's how they do it for any wrestler, right?
So clearly, he's either clearly medically cleared, or they are gonna write him off TV for several months. One of the two. I think they actually have already promoted him being on Raw again. So
yeah, that would be awful if he came back and was immediately written off.
Yeah,
because I will tell you the pop in Minute Maid Park was insane.
it was huge.
However, unfortunately, since I wasn't watching wrestling in the time of Edge, whenever his music hit, I really didn't know what was happening. So everybody around me was like, "What is it?" And I was like, "What? Who is it?" And then smoke came out, and I still couldn't see who it was. But I looked at the Titantron; it said Edge. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Hey, it's the Brood.
Yeah, I will say this, that my friend predicted Edge might come back because Beth Phoenix was also returned in the Women's Royal Rumble.
And as one of our 90-second topics, we did mention Edge as a potential surprise that he'd been rumored about it. But yeah, we'll get to the Women's Royal Rumble and the Men's Royal Rumble after this. MVP actually wrestled in a match on Raw as well.
That's cool.
I don't
know who that is.
He was big while you weren't watching. He was big when I wasn't watching. And by big, I mean he was a strong mid-carder. He had a really interesting character, Montel Vontavious Porter. And then he had a really fun rivalry with Matt Hardy, where eventually they won the tag team titles while they were
Matt
still
Hardy
rivals.
And MVP.
Yeah.
Oh, kind of like Sheamus and Cesaro, who didn't like each other at the beginning, but eventually they became friends.
Yeah, I don't think MVP and Matt Hardy ever became friends, though. So,
well, clearly those motherfuckers never grew up and watched. What is that Friendship is Magic show?
The My Little Ponies?
I think so.
That's the Friendship is Magic show.
Okay.
That's what the new version of it is subtitled Friendship is Magic.
Oh shit! Okay, so they just wasn't available to them.
No, there were My Little Ponies. It just didn't subtitle Friendship is Magic.
Let's stop talking about My Little Pony.
Yeah, Brony, get out of here.
Okay, so MVP also came back on
Kevin
Raw.
Owens and Samoa Joe challenged for the Raw Tag Team titles.
Oh, good. We've slapped together two singles wrestlers again.
Mm-hmm.
Did they win?
No, of course not.
Good.
They
lost against who?
Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy, the tag team champions.
Yeah. Two single wrestlers slapped together for a tag team title.
Yep. And Humberto Carrillo was able to beat Andrade in a return match, but it was by disqualification.
I will say this about Humberto Carrillo. His fireworks at Royal Rumble almost gave me another heart attack. There was no warning at all. It was suddenly boom, and it was Humberto Carrillo's music. So that was exactly what happened. I was like, "What the fuck?" Oh, it's Humberto Carrillo.
Thanks for spiking the levels there too for us, friend.
I'm sorry.
It spiked your levels. I got you. I understand.
Yeah.
And then it looks like there might be a placeholder feud between Charlotte Flair and Asuka.
Placeholder meaning we'll continue this after whatever Saudi thing we're doing?
No, as in before Charlotte Flair takes on either Bayley or Becky.
Okay.
She's going to use the next month an Elimination Chamber or whatever to take on Asuka. Because they had a match and it ended up, I think Kairi Sane came in. There was two back-to-back championship. Well, this wasn't a championship match. There was two back-to-back matches where there were disqualifications, outside interference, etc., etc.
Which, by the way, if you are just tuning in, Charlotte won the Women's Royal Rumble, which is somebody we predicted. I think we had her.
Well, I think we had as a safe bet. Most people, if you're just tuning in, if you're getting all of your news from us, great.
Woe be unto you.
But It's a
Yeah.
week late for the Royal Rumble, so I would not begrudge you getting the Royal
This is
Rumble
like
winners
this
before
is
that.
last night essentially. It's like you ought to kind of know what has already happened. But
Right.
yes, Drew McIntyre won the men's Royal Rumble, and Charlotte Flair won the women's Royal Rumble. Which say that 3 times fast.
And Bray Wyatt beat Daniel Bryan, as we established. Bailey beat
Mm-hmm.
Lacey Evans. Becky Lynch beat Asuka.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheamus beat Shorty G.
Yeah, I watched that match and I was like, okay.
Yep. They had a return match on SmackDown, which was the same.
I was like, okay.
So actually, Mojo Rawley came out and had a legit match for the 24/7 championship and introduced Riddick Moss, who has been kicking around NXT for a long time.
Riddick Moss? Is that a
Yes.
manager?
It's Muscle.
Oh,
He's his
okay, it's like
lineman.
it's
He's
an
Mojo
enforcer.
Rawley's lineman, yeah, and he's an enforcer.
Okay.
He's a wrestler, but he's going to be Mojo Rawley's lineman. Watching the quarterback's blind side is exactly
Okay.
how Mojo Rawley put it.
Are we referencing back to Mojo Rawley's NFL days?
I guess so. Yep.
Was he in the NFL?
Yes.
Where?
I will have to look it up.
Okay, sorry. I believe you.
Um,
It explains why he's friends with Gronk.
right. I mean, he. Let's see.
It's all those NFL guys are friends, right? Like after
Yes.
the game, they go and have beers together.
He's a former defensive lineman.
Hmm.
I don't think he got to actually play
Well,
actual
still, if he was on
football.
on a practice team or something like that, that's nothing to sneeze at.
He played preseason for the
Hmm.
Packers, which is
Okay.
nothing to sneeze at, right?
Yeah.
And then he signed with the Cardinals, but ended up being placed on injured reserve. Um, and he never came back after he was injured. So he went
I
right to
wonder
WWE from
how many
injury.
like former NFL, WWE superstars, wrestlers. I don't like the term superstars, but how many WWE wrestlers who came from the NFL have a similar story? You know?
I don't know. It's like Baron Corbin's is interesting because Corbin actually I believe played in real games.
By the way, why are we still calling him Baron Corbin? He's a king now.
Yes, King Corbin. I'm sorry, I need proper deference.
Yeah, like I'm turning into a bad guy, Mark. Can you believe it? But yeah, no. Speaking of football and King
Oh
Corbin,
no, okay. He never
they
actually played in the NFL. He
okay.
signed futures contract, played on some practice squads, got into a fist fight um,
Oops,
with somebody in training camp. Same old
oops.
thing.
Well, got into a fist fight, huh? Go to wrestling.
Hmm.
I will say this: I saw some promotional material with King Corbin out there during like Super Bowl media day, sort of chatting people up. And it seems like Fox has the WWE wrestlers doing sort of not double duty, but working their NFL and their sports events as well.
Yes,
I think it's an exciting cross promotion. I
it
think
is. They actually called W SmackDown Super SmackDown this week.
mm,
Normally, when it's something like that, it's both brands smashed together, but this time it's because there's a super
super
event
bowel.
mhm,
Yes. And
happening this
I
weekend.
heard from some people, or I read from some people on the wrestling subreddit, that King Corbin was actually asking questions of the football players that were sort of beyond the pale of what sports journalists normally ask.
Hmm.
And it was shit like, who do you think would win in a fight, me or Andre the Giant? The rest was like, the football players like, oh shit, oh I think you'd win. And so,
Football players are nice like that because they don't really want to put anyone under the bus.
oh no,
Most of
absolutely
them are
not.
not heels. Most of them are faces. They won't turn on anybody. So if you ask them who do you think would win if I fought your offensive lineman? They'd rep their offensive lineman, but it was who do you think would win if I fought the other team's offensive lineman? And he'd be like, you know what? I think you got a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might be able to do it. If you get all tangled up in his legs and he falls off a cliff, you
Yeah.
you have a chance there, bro. And they would be sincere about
Yep.
that.
Exactly. But Roman Reigns and Sasha Banks are actually going to be on the Super Bowl pre-game show on Fox.
Okay.
They're going to have a pizza party.
Oh, cool. I wonder who's going to come out and fuck with Roman Reigns during that pizza party. I hope
I
they
don't
don't have a
know.
dog food pizza.
No, they don't. Anyway, so on that note, SmackDown ended with Baron Corbin, King Corbin, covered in dog food because his team lost to the Bloodline, aka Roman Reigns and Usos.
Yep, you tricked me into looking at a picture of that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
that dog food
because
looked
like
like
they like mugged for the camera,
they
and
did. Like
and
like Roman Reigns was pointing at King Corbin, all like, yeah, look at this.
and
So,
Michael Cole was just like, and that's gonna be the front page of WWE.com tomorrow, and sure enough, it was. So
yep, truer words were never spoke.
nope, he
So,
knows what he's doing sometimes. But
mhm.
that wasn't the biggest thing that came out of SmackDown.
Oh, really?
Um,
Not King Corbin getting covered in dog food. No. What was
no.
bigger than that?
What was bigger than that? Maybe slightly bigger than that was that The Miz and John Morrison were named the SmackDown Tag Team #1 contenders, beating
Oh,
Heavy
for the Royal
Machinery, The
Rumble.
Revival, and Lucha House Party.
Oh, wow. That's a bunch of folks to beat.
Maybe slightly bigger than that is Braun Strowman won his first singles title, defeating Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental title.
Wait, you're shitting me. That's his first singles title?
Yes, he
Really?
got some sort of belt for winning the Greatest Royal Rumble,
He did
but
get some sort of belt, but
yeah,
I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
but I know, that was the outrage in my voice. And he's been a tag team champion a couple times, but he's never had a singles title.
That
They've always
strikes.
it's always been like they've just not quite wanted to pull the trigger on it. He was facing like Seth Rollins or Brock Lesnar, and they didn't want
I
him
mean,
to
I don't
go
know
over
what
on him.
trepidations they have about that, other than Braun Strowman was not prone to injury, but he was injured a time or two.
Hmm.
So,
I don't know. I think maybe they worry a little bit, like who will take the belt off of him.
oh, you mean like the belt on Brock Lesnar?
Yes, like who is good enough to take the belt off of them.
Well, I
But
mean, that's their
all
own
of
damn
that,
fault for booking themselves into a corner.
all
Anyway,
of that pales in
uh,
comparison to the fact that Otis shot his shot on Friday night.
he shot a shot. You mean even after rolling out from under the ring at the Royal Rumble and
Mm-hmm.
catching Mandy Rose in a very sort of sandwichy way,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Basically, their lips were touching when he caught her.
so Otis shot his shot,
Yes,
and I'm
he
sure he was
Tucker was
accepted.
like, dude, like you're probably not gonna get a better chance than to right now because Fire and
And just
Desire came up and thanked Otis for all of his help, and he said,
yeah,
Mandy, will you go out with me? And Mandy
and
was like, no, I'm busy this Friday.
Otis, you did what
But
you could.
next Friday, I'm not busy. We can do it then. Hey! Big pop, everyone was excited. And after Fire and Desire went off to their match against Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, um, Tucker did the math and was like, hey, next Friday, not the Friday after
That's
next,
Valentine's. That's the day before
is
Valentine's.
Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a Valentine's Day Otis and Mandy, which
Oh,
obviously all the cameras will be there and we'll get to watch the whole thing.
this is so stupid that I'm suddenly interested in this.
I mean,
Because in the beginning,
they describe wrestling as a male soap opera, and this is like the most male soap opera angle you could possibly book.
yeah,
And you
and
know what? Everyone's eating it the fuck up.
I think Otis has gotten himself over.
Hmm.
Well, not gotten himself over, but has gotten over in the sense that the dude, it just has no pretenses. The man is who he is,
Hmm.
you know.
He's gotten his
And
character over, which is
and
this
and
goofy
and
guy.
what's good is he's made himself vulnerable
Hmm.
because a lot of particularly men do not do that,
Right.
right? So I can appreciate somebody putting themselves out there and trying to like quote unquote punch above their weight.
Hmm.
So there you go. I don't know how realistic that is in the real world because I will say on another hand, I do know many lady friends of mine who bemoan the fact that if you watch like a sitcom, you have like a schlubby asshole lead with like a hot wife. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, when does that ever happen? It really doesn't. But Otis doesn't really seem to be an asshole,
No.
So,
No, and he's not schlubby either. He's just rotund.
mm, mm.
He's got more
Oh yeah,
muscle in his bicep than you probably do in your body.
yeah. No, the man is the man. He gets out there and he heaves shit around. You're right.
Mm-hmm. So alongside those other things of note before we head on to the biggie meaty topics, um,
Biggie meaty topics.
yeah,
You're gonna get Biggie on
is
the show with
Naomi
that.
returned? Looks like
Okay.
she's in line to take on Bailey.
Fantastic hair, by the way.
Yes, the hair was great. Best shoes in the business.
Hmm.
And Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne defeated the Grizzled Young Veterans to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic on NXT.
Oh, good for Matt Riddle and da.
And Pete Dunne, they're going to get a tag team championship match against Undisputed Era at
Okay,
Takeover
cool.
Portland. Another tag team of singles wrestlers
Stop.
slammed together.
Yep, nope, don't want to hear it.
Tegan Knox got a revenge against Dakota Kai, and
Tegan Knox, you mentioned her a couple of shows ago. She came out. Tegan Knox is like the green lady, right? With like
no,
the
that's
tank and shit.
Shotzi Blackheart, who also
Oh,
wrestled and came out in
okay.
a goddamn tank, and is awesome.
Yeah, no, Shotzi Blackheart, which I keep wanting to call her Tchotchke Blackheart, but Shotzi Blackheart. She got a big ovation at the Royal Rumble. People were happy to see her.
Yeah, she's a very unique and interesting character, and I think she can go far as long as they don't make her into, I don't know, something else when she comes up.
Mm.
And then the Adam Cole Tommaso Ciampa signed contracts, and Tommaso Ciampa got busted up while putting Adam Cole through a table.
I think I saw an image of him holding a title with blood coming out of his head.
Yeah, and then he started to go sign the contract for their championship match when the
Mm.
crowd said, use your blood, use your blood.
Blood, use your blood.
So
Oh well,
he
he
pulled an
did a fiend.
audible and did a
Yeah.
fiend. Yep, grabbed it right off the top, smeared it across, and said, "I'm in. I'm signed in blood here."
That's a little bit less orchestrated and somewhat contrived as what the Fiend did,
Mm-hmm.
but without what the Fiend had done, that would have been possible.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yes.
So that's where we stand on the week that was. The Royal Rumble was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was all fun, good matches.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think
And,
some people were deflated that Charlotte Flair won the women's Royal Rumble.
and sometimes the person you think's gonna win is gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
You
I mean, people actually there was like we said, the Vegas money last week was on Shayna Baszler to
Yeah.
win.
I think that was our prediction too, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But Charlotte Flair is always a safe bet,
Yes.
generally speaking.
And it ended up being that Shayna Baszler was the one who. Oh, actually, WWE's got a pretty good list of the participants,
Mm-hmm.
who they eliminated, who they were eliminated by, and the time. Usually, you can also find it on Wikipedia too. But I was actually kind of surprised that.
Yeah, well, they're getting with
Let's
the
see.
times.
Mhm.
I will say this: Molly Holly came back.
Yep, as Mighty Molly. Her
Yeah.
she was in the first WWE Women's Royal Rumble, but this is the first time that the Molly Holly persona has participated in the Royal Rumble. So
The Mighty Holly, yeah,
yeah,
and she hung for a little while.
yeah, no,
So
she had 10 minutes 21 seconds in the Rumble.
not bad. And Alexa Bliss was one of the first entrants, and she was actually in there for a while too.
26:34.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Iron Woman this year was
Mhm.
Bianca Belair,
Oh, yeah.
33-20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eliminations.
That's almost a third of the entrants.
And that's
That-
the record.
Hey,
So she broke the record until Shayna Baszler tied it at the end.
well,
Which
NXT.
I mean, that was the move that made it seem like maybe Shayna Baszler would win. But Shayna Baszler actually was only in the Royal Rumble for 4 minutes 27 seconds, which was a lot shorter than I feel it probably should have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
that was
mind.
so. We're talking about probably the worst match the whole night, but if you don't count Sheamus versus Shorty G.
I don't, because that was on the pre-show and that was going to be what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had hinged any expectations on that, that's your fault. Unless you're completely new to wrestling.
I
I mean, it was disgraceful. It was a match. It
I got a
was.
little angry when Lana came out. There was one person between them, and then Liv Morgan came out.
Eh.
But because they wanted to book that match for Monday, and apparently that angle's going to continue. Yeah, but it was done reasonably well. They eliminated each other. They didn't really spoil anything. I'm okay with it.
There was a Rusev Day chant when Liv Morgan came out. I will say this. I forgot. Sorry. No.
That's all right.
No, I had something poignant. I'll remember tomorrow. So.
Yeah, that's probably what it'll be. This particular, the eliminated list, whose superstars eliminated is pretty barren. Liv Morgan eliminated Lana. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville teamed up to eliminate Mercedes Martinez, who is a industry veteran and competed in the very first Mae Young Classic.
I will say this: Mandy Rose was eliminated after she landed in the arms of Otis. Mm-hmm. This was like the second time Otis saved her, and then I think Sonya Deville was thrown out onto them.
Yes, onto both of them.
Yeah, I was hoping that Otis would support them both, but unfortunately, just if you've already got like 120 pounds in your hands, and then like 120 pounds comes flying at you,
right?
Which mass times acceleration equals boom.
Right. You're prepped to catch the first one, but you're not prepped to catch the second one.
Although I will be honest, I do think that if Otis saw it coming and was ready, he could have caught both of them.
Oh, he could have caught both of them and put one over each shoulder and carried him around.
Yeah. So that would have made me pop like a madman. I would have thrown myself from the nosebleeds. No, that's exaggeration.
I think the biggest story out of that, let's hit two minor points. It was fun to see Kelly back. Mm-hmm. She wasn't anything to write home about. But Beth Phoenix, however, may have been the MVP of that particular Royal Rumble.
How so?
Just how much work she did. She came in relatively early, and she came in at number 19, and was in there for 23 minutes. And at one point got a big cut on the back of her head and was bleeding profusely. You may not have been able to see it through the Titantron.
I couldn't see it through the Titantron or from the nosebleed seats. So yeah.
Yeah, Goodness. She had just like part of her blonde hair was red and matted to the back of her head, but she hung in there so she could do her spots, and she actually was one of the final four.
Oh, she was. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So she stayed in there so that she could have the revenge against Santina Marella.
Santina Marella, who was not, in fact, a woman. That's Santino Morale or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
Santino Marella. Uh-huh. But there was a whole bit where he said it was his sister, and she's a little out there, and don't pile on her for her look. She gets she gets enough of that as it is.
I did not understand that joke.
It's because there was a whole bit, and it was kind of a bit of a nostalgia thing. We talked about this maybe being the first year that a man would compete in the Royal Rumble, and
I was still hoping for our truth.
Kind of happened, yeah. What we got, it's the same. They put a man in a comedy spot like they would have with R-Truth.
Yeah, I mean that is what was going to happen. It's not like Braun Strowman was going to run down the ring and start tossing chicks out left and right.
It's fine. There were 30 people. There's always, you can always fit a comedy spot in there.
Of course.
I don't care. Like
last
some
year,
people were
the
like,
comedy spot was,
he took a spot away from a deserving woman. Like, no.
Last year there were several comedy spots last year actually, like Hornswoggle and Selena Vega hiding under the thing, and Vicky Guerrero, technically speaking.
Yes.
So
So I mean, it was fine. Some people were disliked it. Some I enjoyed it. I popped. I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's funny. And then they had the bit, and one of the guys that I watch pretty religiously, Brian Zane of Wrestling with Regret. He gave a pretty good summation of what probably should have happened with all fans. I was like, you know what? I was kind of against it when it happened, but then he won me over with the bit where he was trying to woo. By the way, Santina Morella is a winner of Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal. Several years back, and he threw Beth Phoenix over the top of the rope, over the top to win it. So that was the whole payback for that. Is that we're gonna get payback and justice for that oversight, and that's what happened.
So if you're a Smarky Spark who can remember 3 months ago,
yep,
makes sense. If you're a Marky Mark, you're like, who's this asshole?
Yeah, you and the Funky Bunch are like, who the that?
I mean, I this is gonna sound weird, but I was trusting the WWE in that moment not to be super offensive.
No, they weren't.
So I was like, they're speaking to something I don't understand, maybe.
No,
because
it was a bit of an insight. It was just a nostalgia thing.
I get it.
It was a nostalgic comedy spot, and it worked. It was fun. It was a cute little bit, and it didn't really affect WrestleMania. It did put Beth Phoenix and Natalya over a little bit more, and that's what it is. So
that was the women's Rumble.
Yeah, good on Charlotte. She hasn't declared who she's going to fight yet.
The
men, however, Drew McIntyre declared that he is fighting Brock Lesnar, and then Brock Lesnar took him to Dick Kick City on Raw.
Dick Kick City.
Yes, that's also a wrestling with regret phrase.
Was that because Brock Lesnar was mad at having gotten low blowed and eliminated by whom?
After he got low blowed by Ricochet and then eliminated by Drew McIntyre, the eventual winner.
He got eliminated by some young talent both there. I will say I'm disappointed that Kofi didn't eliminate him. That would have been.
I think we're all a little disappointed. That was the moment when I was most down on the Brock Lesnar bit. So if you are like the people that Matt is trying to talk to, or the people who paid no attention to nothing, and this is your first time hearing about the Royal Rumble and wrestling, Brock Lesnar spent 26 minutes, the better part of 26 minutes, dominating the Royal Rumble. Someone would come in, he'd throw him out. Someone would come in, he'd throw him out. Here's how long the people lasted. He tied the 13 elimination record of Braun Strowman. And the longest lasting person in there was Kofi. Lasted 5 minutes in the ring with Brock Lesnar. But we have 8 seconds, Eric Rowan, 9 seconds, John Morrison, 18 seconds, Cesaro, 20 seconds, Shinsuke Nakamura, the Intercontinental Champion.
Mm-hmm.
So he just went at it and just dominated. There was a lot of people who liked Brock Lesnar who were just over the moon about it. There were a lot of people who understood the story and were excited about it. I tweeted, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was totally unnecessary that Brock didn't really need this rub. But
well, I feel like Brock might have needed that rub because for people who are just watching him on the pay-per-views like I do, or even watching the shows where he never appears, the man comes out and wrestles for a 5-minute match.
Oh, don't worry.
Right?
Michael Cole made sure to say that, basically take this, everyone who says that he doesn't wrestle here and he doesn't perform enough and etc., etc. He's out there for 26 minutes dominating, etc., etc. So the only people I thought that really got done dirty in this particular was Eric Rowan, who was in and out, didn't really get to do anything.
Yep, and he's supposed to be a big motherfucker.
Yeah,
dude,
he is.
So.
He's supposed to be kind of a big deal, and he didn't get any sort of rub. Came in and carried the whole damn the cage down. Got thrown out in 8 seconds. The one with a critter in it or whatever. And then was like, oh, I'm angry. I'm going to take this critter back to the backstage. And that was it. And maybe John Morrison, who this was his first, that
was his first Royal Rumble. He just came back. Mm-hmm. He was like, hey, here I go.
Less than 10 seconds. Boop, go on.
That's almost like having. That's almost like thinking you're going to go to the office and say, Vince, can I be on the top card? And Vince saying, no, get out.
Yeah.
That was like the personification of Vince McMahon in the ring,
Well,
just throwing mid-carders out.
I mean, Kofi Kingston not getting immediately thrown out meant that there was going to be some business, and we did get some business. It was good. We got, some finishers thrown at Brock, and basically all the people who he had kind of stepped on in the last, 6 months. Kofi Kingston and Rey Mysterio came out, and the two little guys tag teamed them. And then Big E came out, rallied the troops, and they went all three after him. But
and that was exciting.
That was exciting. It was good storytelling. It was great. I was the most deflated when he just beat them all up. He just threw them all out. And I was like, well, I can expect never to have a little guy champion ever again. It was just a little disappointing there for me at that moment, but I warmed back up to it. The Shelton Benjamin bit was great. They're both former Minnesota Golden Gophers. And, it looked like maybe they would work together for a little bit, and then he threw him out. And I just loved, Paul Heyman going down and greeting him and say, we're so glad you're here, and the hug in the middle of the ring. That was a great bit. I mean, Shinsuke didn't even look terrible. He got some good hits on there, was lining up for the Kinshasa and got caught. And then when Keith Lee came in, he looked like $1 million because he went toe-to-toe with Brock and even kind of chased him off a little bit. Before Braun Strowman came out, and they kind of caused each other some issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was fitting and fine that Brock kind of took advantage of the two of them tussling and threw him over.
Of course.
And that cleared out the big guys who both would have stood tall against Brock if either one was head to head against them. So it made both of them look good, and Brock got a little bit of heel heat because it wasn't complete domination at that point.
Yeah, no, that was more like squirrely, slimy, kick them all down, capitalize on the situation.
Ultimate opportunist, which is what the Edge that you never watch, that's what he's called, the ultimate opportunist. But this is kind of one of those ultimate opportunist moments.
Oh, I thought Edge was the cerebellum assassin.
No, the cerebral assassin is Triple H.
So he wasn't the rated X Super Mex?
He was the rated R superstar. That part you do remember. I'm just thinking of a character who could be the rated X Super Mex.
X Super Mex? Just Rey Mysterio with a dildo. I don't know.
I guess so. With a gimp mask instead of his lucha mask, I guess.
I am so sorry.
You're welcome.
I was trying to trip you up, and now here we are.
And I'm tripping you back. You got to be able to take it if you're going to give it.
All right.
But that was the first half, and I actually, all together, I liked the story. I thought it was good.
I was fine because to be honest, part of the beef we had with Brock Lesnar was he only came out and did this, and he would win right away, and it was kind of like, oh, whatever, right? Like The Undertaker or Kane, for example, they would be on the show every week, and they were continuously proving and establishing that they were dominant threats.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Lesnar is sold as this, but we only see him at pay-per-views, and it begins to seem kind of artificial,
Right.
So,
they were. He had built up the credibility to do that, the first championship run, and then they kind of paid out too much of that credibility. So I can agree with you that buying a little bit more credibility with this run was a good thing. And then Drew McIntyre, that was the second half, though. So we're talking about giving people cred and putting people over. Heck yeah, Drew McIntyre got all the rub by eliminating Brock Lesnar, who looked so like $1 million, and then eliminating a whole bunch of other quality people, including Roman Reigns, to win the whole damn thing. And it turns out he actually was the person in the Rumble the longest, too.
Yeah, and to be honest, when it came down to Drew and Roman, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and I think some people had that, too. Some people had that reaction like, ooh, okay, this is interesting. They're a little uneased by it, as it were.
Well, yeah, that's part of that 4D booking the WWE does sometimes, right?
Yeah.
where but no, I was actually surprised at the well-received reception of this because I thought most people were kind of on Drew McIntyre
Well,
recently.
the
I
when I told
was,
you
I
about the
will
cool
say.
guy persona that he came up with, there's
Uh-huh.
been a real groundswell with this. Like people
Okay.
were really eating it up, and people like Drew McIntyre. Just there just hasn't been a reason to really like him until the last couple of weeks, and he's the hot hand right now. And he's also big, meaty, impressive looking, and talented. So, hey,
So he's checking off many of Vince McMahon's boxes there.
so
So
might as well strap the rocket to him. And the thing is, it doesn't really feel like strapping the rocket to him. You know,
yeah.
it feels relatively genuine.
And of the few dudes at the top that you think might actually be able to beat Brock Lesnar in a contest, Drew
Mm-hmm.
McIntyre is probably one of them.
Right.
Because, for example, Braun Strowman has faced Drew McIntyre has faced Brock Lesnar a handful of times, and he's gotten beat like almost all of them.
Yep. I
So,
mean, he got yeah. So, I think at one point though, at the end, it was like 7 people left in the ring, and you could make a legitimate case for all of them to win the Royal Rumble. That was Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, Aleister Black, Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, and the
Edge.
the big return, Edge. I was
Well,
going to make a little bit more pomp and circumstance for that, but
yes, the big return of the R-rated star. That doesn't sound nearly as good, does
no,
it? That's why they don't hire me at WWE Creative.
that's
Yeah,
correct.
I was happy to see Edge back. He was not going to win the Royal Rumble in his first return. I don't
There
think
was
anybody
a, I mean, there
expected
was a
that.
case that that could happen, but they
Yeah.
did, make it clear by him being, the second runner up. Roman Reigns
Um,
tossing him over and saying, "Nope, that's not going to happen. It's going to be the established guy, or it's going to be, someone who isn't having his first match back tonight."
oh goodness, I think. Hmm, I think Drew McIntyre is a good choice to beat Brock Lesnar because, compared to other big meaty guys, he hasn't really had a lot to do with Brock Lesnar. So, maybe he can beat him.
Well,
And
they both were heels for most of the last year or so that they've been on the roster together.
what I mean is they haven't really fought each
Yeah,
other.
well, they haven't had a reason to because they both were heels.
Well, true. And generally an unknown is better to beat somebody because when it comes to like combat sports, person A can beat person B, but that doesn't mean that person B can beat person C.
Right, right.
I mean,
But that. But on top of that, is that fresh matchups are exciting,
mhm.
and you have fresh stories to tell. So that was the Royal Rumble, and I think the big Edge return, Drew McIntyre going over on Brock Lesnar and as the winner. I mean, even if he hadn't won, I think like
Mhm.
he immediately was going to slide right into the match against Brock Lesnar anyway,
Yeah.
just because of what he did and how impressive he was in the Royal Rumble. But they just
Mhm.
went ahead and went for it, and they'll figure out somebody for the Fiend to face. Later. We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, because the Fiend is done with Daniel Bryan, rather.
Mm-hmm.
The Fiend is done with Bray Wyatt. Ooh, that would be a story for another
Yeah,
day.
I don't know. That might be a story. I've always wanted to tell like a similar, like that kind of story, but with Finn Balor and the Demon, where they
Finn
kind of
Balor and
like
the Demon.
divorce each other.
That
And
would be cool, but Finn Balor's down in NXT right now,
yeah,
so.
he had a match actually against Trent
Well,
Seven.
we shouldn't say down anymore. He's over
Right.
in NXT
Yeah.
right now.
We're kind
And
of
by
we're
over, I mean he's like in NXT right now. It's fucking wrestling vocabulary. He's over in NXT. Yeah, people like him. No,
he is
what I mean
also
is
over
he's
in
there.
NXT, but
Yeah.
that's another story. That's yes, different meaning there. So yeah, I think this Royal Rumble was especially good. Some people were saying it's one of the better ones that they've seen in a long time, and I don't disagree. Really good
Mm-hmm.
storyline told the whole way. AJ Styles might have gotten injured during the
I heard.
match.
Yeah. And I heard that King Corbin, when he came into the Rumble, like was sort of pro about handling that, At least that's what I heard. That's what I read on one comment on Reddit. So clearly that means it's the truth.
Right.
So,
I mean, King Corbin, say what you will, he works well with everybody in the ring.
oh yeah.
He is a little bit of an abrasive personality. If you ever watch The Sweets, which is the gaming channel for Tyler Breeze, the former Ty Dillinger, now Sean Spears, and Baron Corbin, he's still kind of a heel. And he's just kind of playing video games. So there's not doing his WWE character.
Just the way he is.
Yeah. And if you watch The Proving Grounds or one of those things where Baron Corbin is featured on it, they have I think it was Scott Hall who came back and talked to some people. And I guess Baron Corbin was kind of being a nice guy or something when Scott Hall was last there. And Corbin was like, "Yeah, I'm a heel now." So it's like, "Oh, they caught on to who you are." The Scott Hall basically said. So they figured you out, huh? And he was like, "Yeah."
It's like, oh, they know who you really are.
We just talked about earlier in the show,
asshole.
throwing uppercuts during a team brawl makes a little bit of sense.
Okay. Yep. Nope. Royal Rumble was great.
I think both championship matches, that the women's championship matches were. You went to the bathroom during Lacey Evans, and I don't blame you. It was short. It was fine. It wasn't great. The Asuka Becky Lynch match, though, that one I think was Becky Lynch's best defense of the title since she got it last WrestleMania.
And that was a nice bit where she diverted Asuka's poison spray. Mm-hmm. She wasted it in the air.
Yeah, even though physics would tell you that if you kick someone in the gut, you don't throw your head back. But it was a great look, and I don't disagree. I'm with you.
I was really not thinking Neil deGrasse Tyson sitting in the stands there.
Neither was I. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. Great. I like it.
And then in retrospect, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is part of why I don't go back and watch wrestling. I'll be like,
it was very well wrestled, and it was a battle, and it was evenly matched, and both people had support in the match, so it was kind of it was very well done. It was good. I thought it was, like I said, Becky's best match since she became the champion.
Okay. So that was the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Generally a good event.
We of course are just completely going over the opening match of the Royal Rumble,
which was that was King Corbin versus Roman Reigns, whatever.
Which was a lot of fun though. I actually really enjoyed that match.
Well, I mean, that spear on the top of the dugout was actually pretty good use of the space.
Yes, it was. It was a little tentative because it's a space that they hadn't really explored, but. Pinning him on top of the dugout was awesome looking.
Oh yeah. Even if it's the dugout for the cheaty face Houston Astros.
yeah, with their 2019 World Series thing still on top of it.
Yeah, I was surprised that Elias didn't come out strumming his guitar saying, "Hello, Houston,
he's a good
you're
guy.
Fan cheaters.
No,
cheaters,
can't do that.
Cheaters. A friend of mine said that.
I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have been a heel move to do that, but if he called the whole rest of the crowd cheaters, then that would be a heel move. And he's a good guy now, so.
I think part of the problem was that we were in Minute Maid Park,